has been long overdue.
Definitely.
Thanks. You see, I'm happy that you're on here because I know that we're going to discuss loads of stuff and probably get into some kind of debate later on. But without further ado, October Red interviews Daley Perales. Daley, for those that don't know you and need to get to know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a professional boxing coach. I've been in boxing over 20 years. I was an amateur champ. I was an undefeated professional until I got injured. And then it forced me to, give it up basically, and take the road of being a professional boxing trainer, but keep the same goal that I had for when I was a fighter, and that is to be a world champion. So I might not be a world champion as a fighter, but I could be a world champion coach and make a world champion or champions.
Spot on. Tell me how you got into boxing initially.
I got into boxing. I was in foster homes all my life. And then when I got to about when I got to around about 13, started to, know my older brothers. I grew up with one brother in foster home, but I had loads of other brothers. Yeah. And then I started to come into contact with them, and two of them were boxers. And obviously, when you're a younger brother, and you see two older brothers doing boxing, and it's new and it's fresh and it's exciting, you look up to that. So, me being me, because I'm pretty competitive. I'm like, I can do what they're doing. So I wanted to give it a go.
So how old was you the first time you stepped into a gym?
Probably 14. But I knew how to, it took me probably like less than a month to get my license as an amateur, because I'm a visual learner. So I pick up very, very quick. So when my brothers were doing it and I was hanging around with them, going to the gyms that they're at, actually, there's a funny story. One of my brothers, he brought me to his gym. Yeah. I've never had any fights, and there was a national amateur boxing champion in the ring. And my brother told me, get in the ring and spar him today. And I said, what? I haven't even trained as a boxer, ain't it? He goes, I don't care. Get in a fucking ring. You're going to spar him. I'm putting you in the deep end straight away. It ain't about skill. It ain't about if you know how to fight. It's about your heart. If you ain't got the heart, then you shouldn't even bother start training. That's what he told me. So I done the spar, and weirdly actually ended up beating up the national champion.
So how old were you when you turned amateur?
So 14.
Wow. So that quick?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, everything moved quick because I knew kind of how to fight. When I got into it, was Finchley Amateur Boxing Club was my first, where Anthony Joshua trains a lot, even now to this day. Yeah. I went in there, and then I was training, and in my very first session, the coach was going, "Have you boxed before?" I said, "No." And they found it crazy that I knew how to fight. But then on the other hand, when I told them, well, my brother's names and they know who they are, they were like, okay, that's why you know how to fight. And then that was it. It was very quick. After I think 1 month, I had my first fight.
And how many fights did you have at amateur?
Not a lot, I only had like 23 fights. But in that time, I won 2 championships, national championships. Actually, in my 9th amateur fight, because it's like, because I knew how to fight, because of my brothers, it's like they pushed me they chucked me in the deep end all the time. So like after my first fight, I was fighting someone that had 5 fights already. I ended up stopping him in the first round. Second fight, I stopped the guy in the second round. And then after my third or fourth fight, they put me in a team to go to Las Vegas and fight in Las Vegas. And then after my 8th fight, they chucked me in the national championships. So I done everything quick. And I remember in my, I think, 9th fight of the championship was a semi-final. And I remember one of the organizers of the whole competition goes, "Oh, Daley, you've done very well to get this far. But I'm up against a good one here," just trying to, basically say that this is the end of the road because of who I'm up against. So I was up against a junior Olympic bronze medalist who had 70-something fights and only lost 5. And I ended up dropping him twice and winning and going to the final. So that's when I started to think to myself, records are for DJs. So sometimes records don't mean anything. If you believe in yourself, then that's all you need.
Like that. So 23 fights as an amateur, dropped a few who people thought were levels above. And in boxing, I've learned something that you can't say no chance. Tell me about that transition then from amateur into pro. What made you make that decision that, okay, now it's time for the pro game?
What made me make that decision is because, and I think it benefited me, all these things, it benefited me because of what I'm doing now as a coach. I think if I never done it this way round, probably I wouldn't be the coach I am today. But when I was an amateur, I was always around pros because of my brothers. So even though I'll go to my amateur boxing sessions, in the daytime, most of the time I was having double sessions because I'll go with my brothers to their gyms, and in their gyms, I'm around people like the Lennox Lewis College it was at the time. So I was around all the pros at the Lennox Lewis gym, Frank Maloney, Rob McCracken with all his stable, Adrian Dodson, who was a former IBO world champion. I was sparring him at a young age. I was just around world champions, high-level elite pros, day in, day out. And I think, along with my visual learning for the game, my style became more a pro style even when I was an amateur. So in the amateurs, for example, because I have like a Roy Jones kind of style. So in the amateurs, if I slipped and ducked a shot, the referee would complain and tell me to keep my head up. But then in my eyes, I'm thinking, what you want me just to keep my head straight and get hit? And then as I got older and older, it started to piss me off, like the amateurs, like the way they teach amateurs in England is not really like the way I like boxing to be taught. I prefer the way American amateur boxing is compared to the English amateur boxing. So I think putting all that stuff together, I think that's why I decided to turn pro.
So going back to, I know we were talking about you making this decision to turn pro, but you've highlighted a couple of things there. And one of the things that you've mentioned is the American style of fighting, and you had a Roy Jones style, and that didn't really suit the British amateurs. Tell me about the difference between the American amateur style and the British amateur style, or the European amateur style boxing.
There's a few aspects. Like one of them is probably like the mentality as well.
Okay.
I think over here, I'm not saying every boxer because that's wrong, because we've got a lot of talented fighters and that go on to be world champions and they make that transition. But then there's a lot of fighters that can't make that transition, and it's and one is the mentality. I think over here, a lot of them are a bit too soft. You know, in this country, a lot of kids get it easy, as in You know, if they haven't got a job, they can easily get money. That's what I'm saying. You know.
Okay. Okay.
So they don't, or
Okay.
or a lot of people that a lot of people that have been in boxing have never actually been through anything. I think in boxing, I'm not saying all of them, I'm saying in boxing, you have to have that grit. You have to have that story, you know, behind you, because I think that's part of the reason why you fight in the first place. So I don't want to be disrespectful, because there's fighters that, yeah, they've had a good life, they've had everything given to them, family supporting them and all that, and they can go on to be world champions in the end. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there's a lot of people in this country are too soft because of the circumstances they've had, you know. So when the going gets tough, when they have to dig down deep, and I'm not even talking about in fights, I'm talking about in sparring, they'll be the first ones to quit, and you'll never see them again. So that's the mentality side of the things I don't like in England. And I always tell fighters or up and coming fighters, if they want to go to America just to get some experience, make sure you're prepared like you are prepared for a real fight, because they don't mess around over there. They want to kill people in that ring, even in sparring. They don't mess around over there. Because I've been there, I've seen it, I've stayed there, I've been in the gyms. The mentality is different. Another thing is they're preparing these amateurs for the pros from day one in America. Right. So even down, I know it's going to sound silly to people, but even down to hand wraps, they're wrapping their hands the same way they do in pro fights. Okay. Whereas in this country, you get those standard little, what material would you call that?
You tell me.
The standard wraps that you can buy direct.
Yeah, I've got them too. Come on.
Yeah, so those wraps, which is fine for training, fine for training, but they wear them for fights as well.
Yeah.
So they're mentally not preparing these fighters for what's to come, because what are they going to do? They're going to stay amateur for their whole life? No, they're not. You obviously want to turn professional at some point. So me as a coach, I reckon you need to be teaching these amateurs. You got to have a nice balance. You got to have a balance between teaching them in a way where they can win fights as an amateur, because we know in this country, the judges, they like to see a nice jab. They like to see straight punches. They like to see whoever's working the hardest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But then I think you need to teach them the other side of the game too. Yeah. That will help them with that transition when they do turn pro. And
yeah, it's a good point. I like to say in boxing, there's fighters and there's warriors. The fighters will, they've got the end goal to win the match, to get the points, to get the medal. But then there's warriors that are prepared to go to the death. And I think you do see that a lot in boxing. Tell me about your career as a professional boxer.
Well, it wasn't long. The thing with me is, even to this day, people that know who I am, they're like, man, you could be in world champion. Like if I post a video of me at 35 years old hitting the bag or on the pads. Just in case something comes back. Yes, beautiful. Good. Hey! Out. Come on. Here. There. Yep. There we go. Good. Up here. Yep. Here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Don't waste your shots. Find them, please. Yeah. That's it. Focus. There we go. Oh, look.
I always get the same kind of comment, like, what, do you still fight now? Or don't you miss it? And this and that. And yeah, I do miss it because I know I could have been a world champion. But, you know, life is life, man. I will say I had more experience than if you got two pro people having their pro debuts.
Yeah.
I wouldn't look like someone that had their pro debut. Because of my brothers and because of the people I was around. Let's say when I was 2-0, it looked like I was someone that was 10-0 because of the knowledge that I had and the knowledge I had of being in the ring. I think sparring world champions and elite level fighters, that helped me for the pros. You know, so I got to 4-0. I got an injury. I got injured when I was like 20 years old in my rib, and I fractured my rib. But this was in training. I had to go hospital and everything, and then so I had some time away from the ring. Yeah. Because of that, and then when I came back, I thought it was all better. But I sparred in America. Someone hit me right on the point of the bone where the fracture was. I carried on sparring, but when I finished the sparring, when I tried to take off my groin guard, I couldn't take my groin guard off because I couldn't move down, bend down. Okay. Yeah. So then I had to, go, to the doctor again, and I had to get, medication and everything like that. And then that's when I thought to myself, you know what? There's no point putting my body through this. Aside from that, and because you always have to be honest in this game, and because I train pro fighters, I always like to be real with them because a lot of people in this sport is not real. So all the mistakes I made as a boxer, I tell all my fighters all the mistakes because I don't want them to make the same mistakes. Unless you've gone through the Olympics, you ain't getting no big contract. You have to work your way up selling tickets. I'll tell you what, in my first fight, I made £50.
Wow.
£50. I had probably, on paper, 150 tickets sold. And then leading up, when you start trying to collect that money, people start making excuses. And so that's when you find out who your real friends are as well in this sport. Yeah. It's a really hard game unless you've gone down that Olympic route. And I'm not saying to all these up and coming fighters that you have to go to Olympics, because there's so many talented fighters that are better than the fighters that have been to the Olympics. But make sure, if you're not going to take 50-50 fights to prove yourself in the beginning, meaning not getting looked after and built up, make sure you can sell your tickets. Because I'm trying to tell these up and coming fighters that they like the thought of being pros, but they don't know what's behind being a pro. So I always talk about my experiences to my fighters, because I don't want them to make the same mistakes. Even when you're a pro and you're making money, be smart with your money. When you get to that level where you're making enough money, making investments, because boxing's a short career and you want money to last your whole life, and maybe for when you're gone, your kid's life as well. So don't just rely on boxing money, invest your money.
Your injury stopped you from becoming, a possible world champion in your weight range. Sorry, I didn't ask, what was your weight category?
A super middle, which is a tasty division.
So that stopped you. But unselfishly, and this is one of the things that I like about you, you didn't sit at home, you didn't sulk, you didn't drink yourself into a stupor. You thought, I'm going to pay it forward. I'm going to help others get what I didn't get.
Yeah.
So tell me about you making that transition from pro boxer who can't box anymore to saying, okay, I'm going to pay it forward and now I'm going to become a pro trainer. What clicked in your head to say, I'm going to keep going with boxing? Because boxing is essentially, it's your life.
Yeah. Well, I'm a winner. So I think that's why the transition was, I'm not saying it was easy, but I'm just saying it was, you know, it wasn't hard to transition at being into a trainer, to become a trainer, because I was, in my head, it was like, well, I'm going to make world champions, you know? So anything I do in life, I always want to do it the best I can. I can do it. I don't want to do it 50%. I don't want to be second best. Now, I'm not saying there's not other great coaches in the world. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying other coaches can't call themselves number one or the best. But I'm not in this game to walk around and, you know, put the work that I put in for me to just say, oh yeah, I'm not one of the best coaches out there. That's what I want to be known as. I'm going to make world champions because that's what I'm in the sport for. I'm not in it to just get my little percentage and have about 20 fighters just so I can get my little percentage from all of them. I like keeping my stable small so I can invest my time into the individual and make them the best fighter that they can be, and make champions. So that part of it was easy. I'll tell you the part what was difficult was staying in shape, because I've always stayed in shape because I had a fight. So I've always training for something. So I always had a battle with myself for a number of years. It's only now that I've probably in the last year, I've started to actually take control of it. But I'd be like, you know, that part was hard because I'd be like, you know what? I ain't got a fight. So what's the point of training, you know? But what I started to do is when my fighters have fights, some of the things I do with them, not only is it good for my health, but it's good to show them, listen, if your coach can do it, there's no excuses, you know.
Lead by example.
Lead by example. So when we go hill sprints, I don't want to be the type of coach that's at the top of the hill, you know, shouting at them to, come on, you could do it, blah, blah, blah. I want to be right there with them going through that pain, you know. Sometimes we do bag drills where we have to hit the bag non-stop, you know, for a certain length of time. I don't do it all the time because I like to watch what they're doing, but sometimes I'll be right there with them doing it because I want to lead by example and I want them to set the bar. So I always tell them, listen, I haven't competed since 2011. I'm not as fit as you lot, you know. I'm not as trimmed as I once was. So don't be letting me work harder than you. And that's as simple as that.
How many people do you like to keep in your stable to ensure that the focus is fully on them and you can get the best out of your fighters?
I say four is a good number.
Okay.
I think 4 is a good number. I always say 5 if I cannot refuse. If someone came to me and I'm like, wow, this person's going to be a world champion, or if they're already an elite level fighter and they know about me and they're like, I like that coach, I want to work with him, but they're at that level where they're world level, then that's when I could add a 5th. But I think 4 is a good number. Because
in relation to choices, then, if somebody comes into your gym and wants you to be their coach, they've done amateur, they're turning pro, what do you look for in a fighter? What makes that connection between Perales saying, yeah, that one's a good one. I'll bring him into the stable. This is the 5th fighter now. You've already got your stable, you've got your cozy stable, your 4 proper ones. This 5th fighter coming in. What are you looking for?
Just the same ambition that I have, and that's to be the best.
Yeah.
If they don't give me that sense of I can be the best, because boxers are very easy to read sometimes, because it's written all over their body language. I can tell if they want to be the best, or they want to dedicate their life to it, you know what I mean? And as a coach, I've, you know, I wouldn't say I've made mistakes as a coach. It's almost, it's just like I've had fighters where I've been like, do they actually really want to be a world champion? And if I'm questioning that in my mind, then not really gonna work, you know what I mean? So the mentality for me is the biggest thing, you know.
Okay.
If I get you on, first of all, I have to like them from afar. So I never just invite someone into the gym and let's see what you've got. I go on a lot with you know, energy and a feeling. So if I'm watching them on their, I'll tell you one example, right? So I got two kids I train away from my pros that are my long-term projects. I always say, there's a good example. I always say, just because, even if you're an amateur, right? I'm not gonna just train you just because you're a kid and you're wanting to learn boxing and this and that. I have to see something. And he sent me a video of Frankie fighting in a real amateur fight. It took me 30 seconds. To message Frankie's dad back and go, yeah, I want to train him. So if I don't like you within 30 seconds, the chances are after 1 minute or 2 minutes, I'm not gonna change my mind, you know. I've got to like you and have that feeling, have that energy within that first 30 seconds. And that's what I saw in Frankie. I was like, wow, this kid can be a world champion. This kid can be a world champion. So based on that, that's when I invite them to the gym. Then it's within that session, if I don't see something, because being on video is one thing, but then having a connection in person is another thing. We have to have that connection, understanding, you know, laugh together, joke together, you know, because that's important as well, where we can, you know, have a vibe. And then I'll test them with a couple of drills that shows me if they're a quitter or not.
Are you gonna share those, or is that a Perales trade secret? The drills that you put them through. Tell me about drills, because you know I love drills.
So basically, easy, non-stop punching on the bag until I say stop, not to when you say stop. And it's not about you. I always say this to a fighter: you can slow down. You can slow down, but don't quit.
Just don't stop.
Just don't stop.
Punch, let's go, non-stop. Let's go. That's it, 3 minutes of work. This is world championship. We don't stop for nothing. Ten seconds.
I always know just by watching sparring if a fighter is really about this life, you know. That's when you get found out. Forget the real fights. If you're getting found out in sparring, I'm not talking about, you can have off days, you can have bad days in sparring. It's not about that. But even through your bad days, you got to show you you know, your determination, show that you won't quit, show that you will come back the next day and put that spar right if it was a bad day. Little things like that. That's what I like to see inspired. You know what? The boxing is the easy part for me. Like teaching boxing to fighters is the easy part. It's the mentality for me. If you don't match my mentality or have my ambition, then how can I train you? It just wouldn't work. If you don't believe that you can be a world champion, then how the hell can I train you?
Yeah.
You know?
Talking about styles, I've often said a few of your posts on Instagram, and I've seen you with a couple of your stable on the pads. You've got a lovely style, and I call it the creeper style. Tell me a bit more about that, because I do love that style. I like it. It's quite predatory, but I want to hear it in your words, how it developed. What was your influences? Because I see that style particular to you, and I've watched a few fights, as you know.
Yeah, I think that just comes naturally from me, you know. As in, like, way I used to fight. I used to creep up on fighters, and you know when in life, boxing's a lot like life. You know when when you see an old friend or something, and then you creep up behind them, and then you go, hey, and they're like, oh my, and then they have that reaction. Now you scared me. Yeah, that's the reaction I want in fights. I want my fighters to be able to creep up on a fighter in a way where the opponent doesn't know what's going to happen at any given time. And then all of a sudden, you're getting hit with 3-4 punches, you know, out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So for me, when it comes to, you have a main, I always train fighters to their natural ability. I don't like to take their natural ability away from them, because that's what makes them who they are.
Okay.
And then what I do, I just blend my methods.
Okay.
I see the areas they can improve on in their natural ability, where they can keep improving every single day that they're in the gym. But then I also look at the areas that they don't do so well, or they can't do well. And then I get them to work on that every single day. And then I blend it all together. And I always tell my fighters that you've got your main style, yes, but what happens if someone takes you toe to toe? Like a lot of amateur coaches, they don't like to show those kind of things to a fighter, but I think it's very important, because if you get caught in a situation, I've seen it time and time again, even when it comes to defense, and I'm a big believer of defense, you know that. When a fighter is under pressure, 9 times out of 10, you always see an amateur do this, trying to defend with their chin up, and they're trying to get away like this. And to me, that's panic. And that's a dangerous situation to be in. So you need to show all these fighters that, hey, if you're getting backed up to the ropes, that's fine. That's your home too. This is boxing. You know what I mean? You know, unless you're going to get out the ring and run outside the ring, outside the ropes, you know what I mean? This is boxing. This is your home in here. So you should be able to be comfortable on the outside. If you're on the ropes, if you're toe to toe, if you're getting backed up, if you're going forward. So I want my fighters to be all-round fighters. They have their natural ability, but they know what to do in any situation.
Yeah. Defense is massive in boxing. We've had plenty of conversations before, and one of the conversations we've had is about boxers' defense skills. We see a lot of coming forward, we see a lot of punches, but when the punches come back, sometimes the defense is questionable. You see a lot of people getting hit, and hit far too much. Yeah, you're going to get hit, but they're not using defensive skills, like you said, slipping, pivoting, moving out the way. And I want to touch on that, because I want your thoughts on, obviously the heavyweight division is my heart. It's the division that I understand the most. So excuse me for being selfish, but I want your thoughts on the recent match between Joyce and Daniel Dubois.
Yeah. Well, good for Joe Joyce. Yeah. In the fight itself, I have to be honest. You know me.
Yeah. We're here.
I say it how it is, even if I hurt some feelings. I've never been excited to watch a Daniel Dubois fight. When Daniel Dubois fights, I've never been like, oh, you know, Daniel Dubois is fighting. He knocks people out, so I'm going to watch it. He just doesn't give me that kind of excitement to want to watch him. And leading up to this fight, I was like, you know, if Daniel Dubois don't get Joe Joyce out early, then it could be Joe Joyce's fight.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Joe Joyce took all Daniel Dubois' early shots.
Ate them.
Yeah. And Daniel Dubois, like, what the hell? He's taking all my best shots. People go down from these. So it's a combination of that. Probably his heart went a little bit.
Yeah.
And also, you know, that the eye troubled him. I think from round 2 he got started getting.
I think it was. Yeah.
But I think because Daniel Dubois has never been in a situation like that before, I think that's why he found it easy to, you know, kind of give up. I don't want to be mean, but we can go down the list of so many fighters in the sport of boxing that have had their eye like that.
Yeah,
you know?
I know. Yeah.
And they carry on until the last round, you know. And it's a bit different to like Kell Brook. Kell Brook was blinking.
Yeah.
While he was fighting and actually dabbing it, and you could tell. You could tell he was in severe pain. Daniel Dubois didn't show any sign of that. He didn't show any sign of like blinking, or all of a sudden he got a jab to the swollen eye. Then that's when he was like, wait a minute, let me take a knee, you know? Good for Joe Joyce. Do I think Joe Joyce can, while the heavyweight division is the way it is, with Fury with the WBC, Joshua with the other belts, do I think he can beat those kind of guys? I have to be honest, no, I don't. But he's put himself in a good position to earn some good money. Yeah. So I do think it's weird with Joe Joyce because he's very tough to fight.
He is.
He's got an engine on him. He's got a good chin. His jab is decent. He showed that. But when he put
head movement though as well, I've got to take it off to him about his head movement, because he moves his head a little bit more than I've seen him move in previous fights.
That's because of Ismail Salas.
Okay.
He's coach. Ismail Salas had like, I don't know how many world champions he's had, 19, 20, 21 world champions. But Ismail Salas's philosophy is movement.
Okay.
So he'll get people to stand in front of him on pads and just constantly move, and throw punches off of it. That's his trademark. Salas is a big believer of that kind of movement, and you could see it in that fight. So even though Steve Broughton, who done an amazing job in the corner, because you know Salas got coronavirus.
So he backed up.
But Steve stepped up to the plate, done an amazing corner work. You know, gave Joe Joyce the right advice and everything. It was pretty good. But yeah, that movement has come from Ismail Salas. The only thing I don't think he can change this is like the speed of his punches. Like when he puts 2 or 3 together, it's like you can see them from 10 miles away. And that's the thing that like annoyed me about Daniel Dubois. It's like, how can you not see those kind of punches? You know.
Well, then we can have the argument about defense again, can't we? Because
Daniel Dubois, I've always said it, because I had a heavyweight I was looking after. three years ago, and we sparred Daniel Dubois a few times, and even then I was like, why is everyone ranting and raving about Daniel Dubois? He's not all that. He's technically not good, you know. You know, he doesn't move his head. He's so stiff. When he lets his punches go, he's good. But it's the things he does before he throws punches. You know what I mean? You can't just walk in a straight line just because you've got power and think you're not going to get hit. You know?
Well, we can talk about that a little bit more, because what I've noticed is, you know, I've watched a few fights, and fighters get like known for a particular thing. And I'm going to go back to Teofimo Lopez versus Lomachenko Vasily. Obviously, Loma was the one that was, you know, he's going to win, blah, blah, blah. There was a few questions, a couple of people like, I don't know, you know, this Teofimo ain't no joke. Teofimo went into the ring and beat Loma with his feet, because Loma's best attribute is his feet. So it's almost like, it's like that game of chess, but you're using the other person's attributes to win them. So moving that into the Joyce versus Dubois, Joyce's job was to take away Dubois' jab. Then after that, what's he got left?
Nothing.
And this is where the IQ of boxing comes in. And I know you're massive on that, but this is why I can really appreciate that styles make fights. And if you're fighting the mirror image of yourself, you're going to have to be pretty good. And you're going to have that IQ to say, okay, Joyce is taking away my jab. What am I going to do now? And it's about, like you said, you train your fighters to be able to deal on the ropes, in the center, on the back foot, because you're making sure all of these variables are covered in case they get that mirror fighter, that genuine 50-50 fighter coming at them.
I get in the ring with my fighters. I put gloves on to make it as realistic as possible. It's kind of like a mini spar without hurting each other, because obviously
technical.
But they get to a point after a while of understanding the way I fight. You know, and then start taking away things that I'm doing, and that's music to my ears.
And that's the IQ.
Because that's what I want. That's why I do it for. You know. Then it's for me to tell them, okay, so now you've taken away what I'm doing. Now, what is your next move? You know. Or because I've got such a high IQ, when my boxers take away what I'm doing, I've always got something else.
You've got the backup ready,
Their mind is constantly working and constantly learning.
I agree with you. I do think that's what happened. Joyce took away his best attribute. He gave what he could.
I always say to him,
he didn't have a backup plan.
His body doesn't match his face. He's such a baby, you know. And I think he needs to, you know, I don't want to take anything away from his coaches, because I'm not there. I don't know what happens. But like your word you used to say, you like to use is, the proof is in the pudding.
So Daniel Dubois' corner, because I've watched the fight again. Obviously, I watched it quite closely the first time. He did not look right every time he was walking back into his corner. There was one point where he looked like he was physically shaking, and his corner was saying, you know, sort of like, man up, this is a fight game. This is what it's about. This is your time now. They knew that he was stuck. They obviously knew about the injury. Do you think they should have pulled him out before? Because this quit thing has got a terrible stigma. Yes, he did quit, but he had an injury. Would it have been better for him if his corner had thrown in the towel rather
100%.
than him?
100%. Because boxers are warriors. Yeah.
Well,
a real fighter deep down is not gonna want to quit. They'd rather die than quit. So then it's down to the corner. Or it's down to maybe the referee sometimes can stop the fight for a minute,
Yeah.
call the doctor over, get the doctor to take a look.
True.
You know what I mean? Get a second opinion.
Well,
So I think,
tell me about the psychological effects that it could have on him. And I'm glad we've got into this subject because, like you said, you've made a couple of points there, which I agree with. He was like a baby. You know, there was part of me that literally just wanted to run down to the studio and say, it's going to be all right, son. Because I felt bad for him. I felt his corner should have pulled him out because there's such a bad stigma around quitting. You know, psychologically, like you said, that could destroy him, and it's going to take him a while to build himself back up mentally to deal with how the loss went. It's not the fact of a loss, because of course a loss is horrible, but that stigma attached to the word quit when he's basically trying to save his eyeball. Yeah. Well, I'm screaming for the Louis Ortiz versus Derek Chisora because I think that would be a good fight. I'd actually pay to watch that, even if there was on, say, the undercard of, say, Dylan White, because that's the January fight. I'd really like to see Ortiz versus Chisora, but that's another conversation that we can have. So,
or even Joe Joyce versus Chisora.
Yeah. Yes, because they were supposed to fight before when David Hay managed Joe Joyce. And they've had a little bit of a square on. Yeah.
So there's fights there for him now. So,
yeah. Versus Pulev.
Well, it's just straight up for me. AJ win, probably by knockout. Pulev is old. He ain't the same Pulev as, you know. I'm not saying he still can't be dangerous, because obviously this is the heavyweight division. AJ's going to have to be focused.
Yeah.
Even more focused, because he knows after this fight what is waiting for him. And that could be a potential fight with Tyson Fury. So he has to be 100% focused, because Pulev he can punch. And that's the last thing to go from a boxer is your punch. But AJ, for me, will win, I don't know what round, but by a stoppage, knockout, or whatever. Then set up that fight, man. That's taken so long to get made.
Do you think the fight's going to happen?
I'm in two minds, man, because you know boxing, everyone talks, but then nothing comes of it. And then the fans and everyone that wants to see it are still just waiting around for it, you know? These days, it's all about money. And I get that. Everyone loves money. But in Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury's case, they're not broke. They're multi-millionaires. So it shouldn't really be about, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this. Make the freaking fight, because in my eyes, how can you not want to be
the undisputed
heavyweight champion of the world since Lennox Lewis?
Yeah.
And
it's an achievement.
In Joshua's case, you've only got one more belt to collect, which is Tyson Fury has it. Go and make the fight. It's simple as that. And I don't want to hear about promoters, you know, because
channels and whatever.
Because someone as big as Joshua, Eddie Hearn needs Joshua. There once upon a time, it would be Joshua needs Eddie Hearn. But now, Joshua has his own management. Joshua has his own promotion. Joshua is a multi-millionaire. Joshua has all the sponsors in the world. He can call the shots. If he tells Eddie Hearn, I'm not fighting until you get me Tyson Fury, and then Eddie Hearn's going to have to get him Tyson Fury. End of.
And sort of like on the same subject as we move on from AJ and Tyson Fury. I want your thoughts on Deontay Wilder.
Squad.
And really, what is happening with Wilder?
I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I don't know what's happening with Wilder.
Do you think Wilder knows what's happening with Wilder?
Probably not. But I wish I was his friend so I could find out for you. But apparently he's been training since September.
I read the article that you sent me.
Yeah.
September.
And he apparently he has to take like a week or 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
Just to taper back down because he's ready to fight. But a Tyson Fury fight ain't happening just yet. So he apparently he says, I have to take a week off of training because he doesn't want to peak, you know, too quick. And apparently now he's warming to the fact that if he doesn't get Tyson Fury, and Tyson Fury doesn't, stick to the agreement, that he's got a load of other names lined up because he wants to fight January, February.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we don't know the ins and outs, truly know the ins and outs. We can only go on what people say, articles, this and that. But if I was a trainer or a manager, I'd say, listen, let Tyson Fury and Joshua fight it out for the undisputed championship. Why is that? Because your fight, the winner, for the undisputed championship. So what a way, listen, so in a perfect world, in the people that believe in him and are confident about him and himself, in a perfect world, what a comeback that would be if he got battered by Tyson Fury to the point where everyone's questioning everything about him. Then he comes back and has a fight while he's waiting for Tyson Fury and Joshua to fight, knock someone out in devastating fashion, so he gets everyone talking about him again, like Wilder's back, you know? Then to fight the winner of Joshua versus Fury, and win against Joshua or Fury to become the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. What a comeback and what a story that will be. Because you know, everyone always makes fun of him because obviously he's not great. He used to be a basketball player. He's got skinny legs. He's suit way too much. You know what I mean? All these kind of things.
His words.
Yeah, his words, whatever. There's so many things people talk about him. So what a way to shut people up if he was to go down that route. So I wouldn't even fight. If me personally, I wouldn't tell him to fight Tyson Fury next.
Okay. I'm going to give you my opinion. Just my opinion. I read the article and it says that he's been training since September, but he's ghosted after the Fury fight. We heard slight allegations coming out from his neck of the woods about the gloves. There was, the Glovegate theory where Fury's cheated, etc., etc. And he wasn't saying anything. He, practically disappeared, except for his message about him being our king and that he'll be back. So nothing. Everyone's looking forward to this trilogy. Well, some more than others, because was it really a necessary fight to have a trilogy compared to what Fury did to him in the second bout? So then he disappears. So Fury starts, what the bloody hell's going on? Yeah, everyone's starting to build up the momentum. Where's Wilder? Then Wilder starts to come out with more allegations, and which is a defamation of character to Tyson Fury with the stuff that he was saying. Obviously, then we had the Mark Breland, the water being spiked. Mark Breland going between two camps and being the traitor. Putting myself being Tyson Fury. This geezer said all of this about me, literally, like ridiculed, defamed my character. I don't want to fight him, right? So because all he's going to do is say that if I won, I cheated. So he's defamed Fury's character. So when Fury's like, you know, this fight ain't happening, he's been quiet. We've been trying to contact him. And this is me looking from an outside point of view. Fury then starts to talk about different fights. All of a sudden, Wilds comes out, oh, Fury's a coward. He's a coward. He doesn't want to fight me. After he said all of these things about Fury, isn't Fury in his right mind to say, actually, I don't want nothing to do with you because look at what you've said about me. And it's almost like Wilder did that. So Fury wouldn't want to fight him. Yeah. Plot twist. So Fury, he can then say to his loyal fans, oh, Fury's a coward. He doesn't want to fight me. But then from Wilder's point of view, why would you want to have a rematch with someone who gets you water spiked, who puts egg weights in their gloves and does all weird and wonderful things in the ring, including voodoo? So it's like he does this. So I study the psychological side of fighters, and this is not the first time that Wilder's done this. Somebody will call him out and he'll go quiet until that person has got a fight announced. Then he starts coming out and mouthing off. He's done this several times. I'm playing devil's advocate. This is what I see.
Well, Antonio Margarito got banned back in the day for putting stuff in his gloves.
Yeah.
And he ended up making, who was it? Cotto's face looked like a mess.
Miguel Cotto.
Yeah, I think they had. I'm not sure if they had a. Anyway, I think they had a rematch, and then Cotto battered him.
Yeah.
So, from Wilder's point of view, you could say, yeah, if he does believe all that, he wants to dish out some pain for doing all the stuff that he says apparently Tyson Fury done. So maybe that's why he wants to fight him. On Tyson Fury's point of, what did you say, not fighting him?
Yeah.
Not coming out, not wanting to fight him. Because why would you fight someone that's saying all that kind of stuff?
He's defamed his character though, hasn't he?
Yeah, I know. But, you know, if you go down a lot of in the history of boxing, there's so many boxers that can turn around and go, well, I'm not fighting him because he just bloody totally fucking degraded me, and that's not what I stand for. And then on Wilder's point, if he believes all that stuff, then it's the same thing. I'm gonna give it, because I heard Wilder saying that everyone is going to pay for what they done to me. And when I stand over all of their graves or something like that, when you're all in graves or something, I don't know what he was saying, but he says everyone is going to pay for what they done. So, you know, to me, I think Wilder's got so many people around him that he doesn't know who to trust anymore.
Yeah.
And when you don't trust people, you start
paranoia levels. Okay.
And things start coming into your head.
Yep.
And then you say stuff because obviously you're angry, you're paranoid, you don't think people trust you. I mean, you can't trust people. You know, you don't know who to trust.
Yeah. Probably
the only person he trusts right now is probably just his wife and kids. But the people in the boxing scene, he probably doesn't know who to trust. So at the end of the day, I still reckon if they do fight, it's a heavyweight division. And one punch can change it all. So even though I believe Tyson Fury is the favorite, definitely after the last performance, and now he's got Sugar Hill as his trainer, who is Emmanuel Stewart's nephew. Sugar Hill brought something to Tyson Fury, which was he's 6'9". He's got all those pounds on him. He's got good boxing fundamentals.
Yeah.
You're slick, but you can be slick, but also you can come forward and do damage.
Aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah. But being smart with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what he brought to the table against Wilder. I think Wilder got...
rabbit in the headlights.
He got put off. When Fury came running across the ring.
He came running at him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think Wilder was like, wait a minute, I didn't prepare for this.
See, what I say that... No, sorry, carry on.
That could be interesting for the trilogy, because now Wilder will probably train as if Tyson... He's been in the ring with Tyson Fury that's been slick in the first fight.
Yeah.
Now he's been in the ring with Tyson Fury that comes forward.
Yeah.
Now the third fight, he can train for both Tyson Furies.
Mm.
So I'm not saying Wilder's the favourite. Definitely he's not.
Mm.
But this is the heavyweight division. If he can train for both of those Tyson Furies, now he's been in with both of those styles.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he still has the hardest punch in the division.
Of course he does. Of course he does. You can't... I'm not going to take that away from him.
And then
He's just got
even
nothing else.
Tyson Fury out of it. If Wilder was to fight Joshua tomorrow, I believe Deontay Wilder can knock out Joshua.
Yeah, he can knock him out, but I don't think he would.
I think if Klitschko can drop Anthony Joshua, if Wilder catches Joshua clean on the chin,
if he catches him,
there's no way he's going to stay on his feet. No way. He might get up and carry on and win the fight. There's no way he won't go on the canvas against Wilder. I do believe Joshua can knock Wilder out as well.
Yeah, I do. Because he's a very come-forward, aggressive fighter. And the thing is with Joshua, and comparing Joshua to Wilder, is Joshua's, all through his career, I know you mentioned about Dubois being manufactured. Yeah. Joshua was sort of the same. But as Joshua's gone through his career, he is able to adapt to his opponents. And I like to call him, he's like a high...
And he's adapted outside of it. He's taking more control now of his own career now.
Yeah.
So
that's why I think he can beat him, because he's adaptable and he does study his fighters.
I mean, the beauty about heavyweight division, right? Anything can happen. Personally, if I was Tyson Fury, once I beat Anthony Joshua, retire.
Leave it as that.
Leave it as that. Don't even go and fight anyone else. Leave it as that. You won all the belts, beat Anthony Joshua, the fight everyone wanted to see for years. You've done it, beat him, retire just like that. Walk off into the sunset. That's what I would do.
Do you think he beats Anthony Joshua then?
Based on him being with Sugar Hill, yes, I do. Because Joshua can't beat Fury on trying to go forward on him. Because Tyson Fury too slick. That's his game. And now Tyson Fury's added that 6'9" and that presence and that weight advantage on the front foot now.
Yeah, and the Kronk style is very like feinty and flinchy, because you used to see it in Klitschko as well. Yeah. It's the same kind of like, you don't know what they're going to do.
6'9" as well.
Yeah.
Andy Ruiz in the rematch against Anthony Joshua, even though Anthony Joshua put on a masterclass boxing display on the back foot.
Yeah, he did.
Every time Andy Ruiz got close, he looked, I won't say scared, but he was worried that the same thing could happen again that happened in the first fight. Yeah. Now imagine a 6'9", someone that can actually box with real technique and got meat behind his punches, walking you down the same way Andy Ruiz walks. Because Andy Ruiz is basic, he just walks forward.
Yeah, he's quite stumped. He's like Dylan White, isn't he? He's 1-2.
Exactly. He's explosive when he punches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas Tyson Fury has all this movement like that. So imagine him walking down Anthony Joshua. I don't think he'd be able to box
the way he boxed on the back foot against Andy Ruiz and could do that, Tyson Fury. So based on that, that's why I think Tyson Fury would be the favourite.
Forward, But Daley, we've been going for like an hour and a half. This is like the longest one. I knew it would be with you anyway, because we bump heads and exchange stories all the time. But to end off the interview, let us know how people can find you, where you're based, how they can contact you. If there is that fifth fighter that is out there that can become part of Daley Perales' boxing camp, over to you. How would they find you? I want your social media and where you box out of.
Very easy. Instagram, the Daley Effect Boxing, and that's Daley not spelt like every day, like Daily. A lot of people confuse that. It's Daley, the Daley Effect Boxing, or just type TDE Boxing, because that comes up as well on Instagram and on Twitter, even though I don't use Twitter. My platform is mostly Instagram. That's where everyone sees all my things. That's where everyone DMs me for training or discussions. Website, thedailyeffect.com. And based out of Rathbone Boxing Club is my base in central London, in Fitzrovia, which is just off Goodge Street, Tottenham Court Road. So yeah, that's where I'm based.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to do this again because we've got a lot more subjects to cover. I've wrote down a lot of points that you put out here that we didn't get to talk about, but we're going to definitely hook up and do it again. But thank you very much for your time. October Red interviews, please like, subscribe, put comments below. Until the next time.
See you soon.
See, okay, you're a genius.